We are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and good evening. I don't know what time of day it is for you, but for me, it's the good time of day. Here we are again today. We are back at it. It has been a while. And not only has it been a while, we are now at a point where I need to address the elephant in the room. And what is that elephant? You're probably wondering. On the last live broadcast that we did, or the last broadcast I did here recently, uh, it was with myself and at the time the business partner, still my brother, Dre the commish, and we were going to be doing a live video from a bar here that was here locally. That is obviously not happening today, and it is not going to be happening anytime in the near future, rather. But we will be doing something a little different here. And I guess the other aspect of that is that while we're still brothers, we're not going to be continuing on the same path together from this point going forward. So that's the elephant in the room. I will be pinning down and below in a comment where you can find the On the Job Training Podcast, which is what we were doing previously. That's going to be hosted on another channel here going forward. And let's see, do we have anything as far as no, we do not. So that being said, starting hopefully on time here, we're struggle streaming a little bit. Hopefully you're able to see everything that we have going on here. And what I want to get into is going back to the title of this stream, an assault on the Black community. And it's sounds like it's clickbaity, sounds like it's something that you're going to clickbait somebody with, but the reality is it is not. This is something that has been going on here in the background for some time now, and actually just came to fruition here a few days ago. What am I talking about? What am I alluding to? What kind of assault are we talking about? How is this not clickbait? Here's what we're talking about. And I'm going to jump straight into it. I'm looking right now just to make sure that we have everybody here with us. And I'm going to drop a link here in a moment. Hopefully we can get some discussion going regarding this assault on the Black community that's been going on here recently. So what's this assault? All right. So here recently, and actually, you know what? The best thing for me to do as we're talking about this is let me share my screen. I want you to see exactly what we're talking about. I'm bringing receipts on what it is that we actually are talking about and what we're going to be dealing with here as far as this assault on the Black community. So what is this assault? It is helping to make better drug customers. That's what the assault is, essentially. Not people who are able to participate in the drug trade that's making all this money, that is perverting the Black community. Not that you're not going to get any benefit in that regard, but we need to make sure that we have great customers and our customers aren't dying prematurely on us. That's what we need to make sure of. And so here, let's take a look at this. I'm going to share my screen with you here real fast. Let me see. Okay, we're good. And let me just select this document here so that you can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about as far as how it is they need to make better drug users within the community. So if you're able to see my screen here, this is what we're talking about. Fiscal year 2022 Harm Reduction Program grant. So this is a grant program that is currently in effect that had just closed as far as being able to participate in it. And I apologize for bringing it to you so late. I just came to my attention here. I had one of the people here who are watching for us and seeing exactly what's going on out here. We're able to bring to the forefront this program, this grant program, and how it is that is an assault on the Black community. So great title. The title is Harm Reduction Program Grant. So they're going to give us money, or they're going to pump money in via a grant to nonprofit organizations, to states. Actually, you know what? Let's jump down here. Let's take a look and see what this thing is actually going to do and how it is that it's going to assault the Black community. So the applications were due 2 days ago, February 7th, 2022. Okay. And forgive me, I like to highlight things. I'll mark things up, even on a PDF. I'll mark it all up. And we're going to jump down in here into the executive summary. So the purpose of the program is to support community-based overdose prevention programs. That sounds wonderful. That is, finally, Black people are being treated in a similar manner to what other communities are in looking at exactly what the issues are out there, that they're being humanized. And it's not just that you need to incarcerate Black people. No, we need to be able to provide programs that will support overdose prevention programs, because we don't want the customers overdosing. They're not going to be able to be effective customers or to provide enough money to these programs if they're overdosing. So funds will be used to enhance overdose and other types of prevention activities to help control the spread of infectious disease. Oh, that sounds great. And the consequences of disease for individuals with or at risk of developing substance use disorder, or SUDS. And that's a word that's going to keep on coming up throughout this. And to give some other information here, I'm going to post a link to the document down below. Feel free. I'm going to encourage you, not even feel free, please go read this document. It's very interesting. And again, here we're looking at it. So the due date for the applications, again, February 7th, 2022, 2 days ago from today. Estimated total available funding. What's the estimated available total funding? Up to $9,750,000 per year, or $29,250 over 3 years. And they're going to give this award to who? 25 recipients. Only 25 recipients are going to be able to participate in this grant that is going to help to prevent people from overdosing on drugs. Okay, so that doesn't sound too nefarious at this point. Doesn't sound really bad right now. And it says a maximum of up to $400,000 awarded per year. So the max that a recipient can get is $400,000. Obviously, looking at these numbers, that's not going to be what everybody's going to get. If they were just to divide this up equally among all 25 recipients, then it would be $390,000 per recipient per year for the course of 3 years. If you were just divided up, looking at these numbers here, so just look at it, divided by 25, that'll give you the 390,000 as opposed to 4. So it's 10,000 off, but that's for everybody. And it started back in May 30th, 2022. And correction on that one. That's when they look to be able to award the so it just closed, but in May they're going to be able to award it, and the length of the project is for up to 3 years. Who can participate? Who are the applicants? Who can apply for this? Eligible applicants: states, local, tribal, and territorial governments, tribal organizations, nonprofit community-based organizations, and primary and behavioral health organizations. So 25 of these are going to receive funds to help prevent this type of harm. Let's go down further. So the priority populations for this program. So so we've identified who can participate, who's going to receive the money. So who are they going to give the money and who they're going to be using this money on. The priority population for this program are undeserving communities that are greatly impacted by SUDS. Undeserving communities are defined under Section 2 of Executive Order 13985. And if you go in there, the underserved communities are basically non-white people. Anything that's not white, those are underserved communities. If you're not white and poor, that's what they have defined when you go and you look at this Executive Order 13985. So here's some of the required activities for this program. So if you're going to participate in this program, if you're one of the 25 organizations or states, whether local or whatever, that's going to be selected, this is what you must do. This is what you're required to do. As a matter of fact, it says grant funds must used primarily to support the following required harm reduction activities. So this is what it's gonna go towards. This is what it's gonna fund. These are the things that you are required. This is must language in here. This is the requirements here, and it gives multiple bullet points. Access organizational readiness and create strategic action plan based on identified strengths, gaps, including those related to social determinants of health and opportunities for capacity development required. I'm going to jump down to where it gets really juicy. So these are all things that sound really nice, really good. Distribute FDA approved overdose reversal medications, deliver overdose prevention education to target populations regarding the consumption of substances, including but not limited to opioids and their synthetic analogs. So that's what the target is. And then it jumps into, it says, assemble a harm reduction advisory council to help, that meets regularly to guide program activities and project implementation. Group members should include people who use drugs or PWUDs, individuals in recovery, harm reduction service providers, and other key community members such as public safety officers, mental health providers, and treatment providers. So you're going to get a program that's 25 recipients of it. This is one of the requirements as far as the advisory council that's going to meet regularly to help guide it. Doesn't say they're going to get paid, but these are the people that are going to meet regularly to guide the project implementation. So there's the nonprofit organizations, the states, they're going to set up these projects for implementation, and the people that are going to help to guide that are going to be people who use drugs, people who are in recovery, other kinds of public safety officers, mental health officers, and treatment providers. And what else is this money going to go towards? Well, are going to be required for? It's going to be for the purchase equipment and supplies to enhance harm reduction efforts, such as, what's the such as? Harm reduction vending machines, including stock for machines. So they're going to get a vending machine with stock in it. What's going to go in here? What are some of the things that are going? Well, infectious disease testing kits could be one of the things that's in there. Medication lock boxes would be another thing that you're going to purchase or required to purchase, according to this grant. FDA approved overdose reversal medications, as well as higher dosages now approved by the FDA. This is, again, really good stuff here. Safe sex kits, including PrEP resources and condoms. And then they snuck in two things here to help you to appreciate what their actual goals are. Safe smoking kits or supplies. So things that will help you in smoking or supplies, such as, I don't know, bongs or crack pipes would be two things that come to my mind as far as safe smoking kits and supplies. Then it goes into some other things that are actually positive, and then it gets down into syringes to prevent control the spread of infectious diseases. So smoking supplies and syringes. So we're not going to provide you the drugs. We're just going to provide you the things that you need in order to use the drugs. And not only are we going to supply you with that, we're going to give you training on how to be a good drug user, along with the materials that you're going to need in order to use these drugs. So you're going to be an effective drug user with materials needed to use drugs, not to be someone who provides or that's going to get paid, such as a big pharma or a state-funded institution or a nonprofit organization to help this process along in order to create individuals who are going to be good consumers, individuals that are going to come on in here, look at it, and realize that that in order to participate, the best way that they can participate here, the thing that they're going to do that everybody's going to acknowledge for them, is going to be they're going to participate in this program specifically for making them better drug users. Think about that for a minute. They want to keep this, and this is on the federal level, which is another thing that's just absolutely mind-blowing. The activities that they're providing money for, that they're giving the grants for, that they're out there doing this for right now, is there in order to make sure that you know how to use drugs and you don't die while doing it. You need to be a good consumer of drugs. However, it's still criminalized. Drug use at the federal level for many of these things, even the stuff that's legalized at the state level, such as marijuana, is still criminalized at the federal level. Not only is it criminalized at the federal level, you know what? Let me look at one. Let me show you something else. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. This particular screen. Let me see if I can find something else here for you, because I don't think you understand exactly just how, not just hypocritical, but just how horrible this whole thing is that we have an activity that is criminalized to such an extent that they're going to help you to become a good drug user. You're not going to make money. There's people and there's lots of things or lots of other program out there at this point that highlights just how much they put into others being able to participate in the drug system that they have. We already talk about big pharma a lot. You hear about them all the time, but even with not just medical marijuana, but recreational marijuana in states that have legalized it, they put a huge barrier to entry for anybody else other than individuals that are already financially well off. Let me show you this other thing real fast. So let me stop sharing my screen here. And let's pull up a new window. Give me a moment. So this is from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and I chose the federal level because each state, for everyone who's listening right now or watching this, each state is going to be different as far as these numbers. But on the federal level, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, you look at this 64,166, and this was as of Saturday, February 5th, 2022. Right. So this is the number as of that particular date, which is 4 days ago. Letter E, the highest offense that we have that we're incarcerating people for at this point is E, which is drug offenses. You can take the other offenses and pretty much start stacking them on top of each other to get to the level of people being incarcerated for drug-related offenses. So we're going to encourage individuals. We're going to have a grant program. We're going to provide 25 different individual institutions, whether they're states or nonprofit organizations or tribal institutions, and we're going to provide them almost $500,000 annually to teach people how to use drugs better. And then we're going to make sure that we incarcerate them at a high rate. I don't. This is just getting crazy, and I agree with Son of the Sun. I agree with his comment here. This is very, very disturbing. This whole aspect of how we're going through this process, and we're getting a situation where we are creating drug users, but not allowing those individuals who have experience in the drug trade to participate in making money on the drug trade. That is reserved for big pharma and people who are independently wealthy that are able to vertically scale, almost like a monopoly, their marijuana production. That's just crazy. That is absolutely crazy that you would get to that point where you look at it and you go, we're going to make sure that within the community, this is what the program's targeted toward. The program is targeted. So we're going to walk into the community. We're going to get one of these 25 institutions, whether it's a state institution, a local institution, a tribal institution, a nonprofit organization, and we're going to give them almost $500,000. Almost $500,000 annually to make sure that they can train people and teach people how to use drugs. I agree. Branded as racial equity. That is one of the things that's in this program here that they keep talking about. They want it for racial equity. This program that they have going on right now, this is it's absolutely crazy that they are out there making sure that they can develop and put out all this information or money behind creating drug users, while at the same time criminalizing drug use. So if you're a drug user, we're going to criminalize your activity, but we're going to train you because we want to make sure that we don't lose customers too prematurely. We need to make sure that you're still a customer and that you're still a client and that you're still using the drugs that are being put out there. So this is one of those situations where it is just absolutely crazy looking at it. And it's, again, this is at the federal level, federal grant program, criminalizing the federal drug use that they're teaching you how to do. And so they're going to incarcerate you. They're going to make you a criminal. Should I? You know what? I think I have. Yeah, I do. I'm going to take it a step further. Right. And in taking this a step further, I want you to see one other aspect of how the system is really an assault on the Black community. Think about this. Slavery in the United States had been abolished, according to everybody on this 13th Amendment. However, I would make the argument, you know what, instead of me making the argument, let's take a look at this. So this is, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is the 13th Amendment of the United States. And so in section 1 of the 13th Amendment of the United States, it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. And then there's a comma with an exception, because it's carving out an exception for this. So you're not going to get slavery. You're not going to get involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party has been duly convicted, comma, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. And then Congress will have the power to enforce the article by appropriate legislation. So the exception that has been carved out of the 13th Amendment when it comes to slavery and indentured servitude, and it does is that if you've been duly convicted of a crime, so punishment of a crime where you've been duly convicted, due process, crime that you've been convicted of, no mention and no differentiation, no matter what anybody says constitutionally, no differentiation between felony or misdemeanor. And that became obvious with peonage back in the day, but no differentiation. So now they can't call you a nigger anymore. They call you a criminal. And by calling you a criminal, now they can treat you the way that they would a slave or an indentured servant at that time. So here you have a program that's been put in place wherein we don't call you those things anymore. We just sit down and we do it that way. And I agree. I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna drop the link. Give me a minute. Let me drop this link. Give me 1 moment. Give me 1 minute here. I'm gonna drop the link in the stream here. Let me pull this down and let me get the link up for everybody. So anybody who does want to come up and participate, anybody who wants to talk about it, wants to share their viewpoint on this wonderful program, this grant program that's an assault on the Black community, can come up and do so. Let's do it like this. I'm going to drop the link here in our chat. So I just dropped the link. let's see if we can, if you want to come on up, come on up. But yeah, that's exactly what we're dealing with at this point right now. We are dealing with a direct assault on the Black community. We're dealing with an assault on how we go about doing things, and I agree with you, Habasha King. Man, this whole deal right now is just crazy. This whole deal is crazy, and they snuck it in. They put it in just two bullet items. That's what they did for us. They gave us two bullet items, and they made sure that they snuck that in for us to make sure that, hey, not everybody's going to sit there and notice this, but we want to make sure that enough people, that we can get that funding in for these 25 different groups, that they can get some money to help us to create more drug users while we still criminalize it and we don't let them participate in the drug program. Let's see. Do I have anybody here in the back just yet? Nah, I don't. So yeah, so that's my little rant on this program that they have that's going on right now. And if anybody has anything that they want to add to that, I'm looking forward to getting some other input from it. But yeah, at this point, it's one of those things that a lot of times we believe that we think that these programs and the like are put there for us to help us, and they put in a lot of flowery language. They put in a lot of things that says, oh, that's a beneficial program. But what they also do at this point is they make sure that as they put in all this flowery language and all these nice things that are going on with it, they don't allow you to participate in the program. They allow that to be Big Pharma, who's putting out the opioids. They allow that to be other vertically integrated companies that have a lot of money that are able to participate in the marijuana trade. That's what they're doing for us at this point. And that's one of those things that as you go on and as you begin to look at it, you see there's definitely not just an agenda that they have that's going on. And when I say an agenda, I'm not just talking about, or I shouldn't say they, when I say they, I'm not just talking about some esoteric individuals. I mean, the government as a whole and big corporations as a whole are there that's doing that. So let me, we have somebody who just came up in the back. Let's add you, Westradamus, to our stream.
Hey,
Are you there for us, Westradamus?
yes. Can you hear me?
Most definitely, I can hear you. I can hear you. And so what did you want to add to it for us on looking at this program that they have that's going on right now?
This is kind of giving me the 80s vibes, we have, of course, in the 70s, they hit our community with at least targeted our women with Section 8, WIC, things like that. And then in the 80s, they targeted our community once again with drugs, which we all know, and then I think this is a wave that is targeting where I believe that is trying to bring us back to that era. Like how you're going to use federal funds to show how people use drugs better. Like hey, we already know about the experimental agents 1475, and that's MADA, which is Molly. Street name is Molly, and things like that. So we already know certain things that has happened that's documented, and now we're getting to a point where now you're trying to show us how to use drugs, give us syringes and federal funds, and what we have asked for, I believe, as a Black community is just a fair shake, just the same opportunities. And beginning of the year, which is a great thing, is the agents got the anti-hate bill. Why can't we get the same thing? And then from there, what we get, Juneteenth. Like, come on now, Juneteenth, and now we get we get Juneteenth. No, we get Juneteenth, and then something that can take us back. The reason why we celebrate Juneteenth, So I just feel like it's just like disingenuous, Then plus, and then we look at the $30 million. Like, well, Joe, why are you not trying to cancel these student loans? So it's just questions. I have.
Not just questions. It has a remind you, like you talking about the Juneteenth, remind you that in their eyes you're still a slave. And then, like you said, now it's back in the day. The other programs that you were talking about, they tried to be hush hush about how they were going to implement or put drugs into our neighborhoods. So you have people who talked about it, such as like a freer Rick Ross, and how he participated with the Contras, and how the CIA was actually funding and making the connections to make him a huge drug dealer within the community. They were providing for him. I say, and that was hush hush. It wasn't a grant program. Now they're just out and open with it. They're just like, what, we're just going to provide you the money, become really good drug users. But at the same time, we're going to provide barriers to entry that you can't even sell marijuana. We're only going to make sure that huge companies can do that. You can't sell it to yourselves. You can't poison yourselves. No. Only big pharma and these huge companies, they can poison you. They're money. They can sit there and hurt you, and we're gonna make it look like we're here to help you. And it's
and I'm just here just an avid observer, I don't want to act like I'm biased or anything like that, because of I think what we have too often is the plantation type thing. Hey, let me tell you what to think and things like that. But I believe this next go around for the election, I would always say that people should always have people earn your vote. Like, if don't blindly just vote one way. Don't just vote Republican just for Republican, or don't vote Democratic for Democratic or Libertarian or Green Party or whatever party that you do. I always say, hey, take the candidates issue by issue, and vote accordingly. And because I just see a lot of contradiction. I'm glad they're giving out the vaccines free. Which is a great thing. It says like, hey, it's for public consumption and things like that. But what about cancer? What about anything else, to help people out? It's like, okay, hey, if we're able to give these vaccines out for free, but why not cancer treatments or dialysis, or, does this not open the door for other things? Yeah, like why can't we just do those things? And I would love to see that happen, because if the government is so, hey, we want to help people, and which is just amazing, which I think is very amazing. I would love to see that actually take effect. Like, if you want to help drug users, okay, what about helping people who need the help? Because regardless, drug users, like, they're going to use drugs regardless.
And that so I can understand it from that perspective on helping the community. We're gonna because a lot of the line items that they utilize were line items that said, okay, these are going to be good things, but they snuck in these two things. And like you said, I want to come back to one of the things that you mentioned about not just providing our vote for whether or not they're red or they're blue, right? Because right now you're looking at the program that's there, that's by someone who wears the blue tie, right? That someone who wears the blue tie has a son, and I understand where he's coming from with it, because his son is a whole crackhead, right? He has a son. His son is a whole crackhead. I know that that's not a popular viewpoint, but you know what? Let me pull up something. I'll show you something here in a moment. And the problem that everybody else has is that he's a crackhead in a suit, right? So he looks nice. He has better representation. What you need is a crackhead in a suit, in order to push that crackhead agenda. And
yeah, facts.
Yeah, and his daddy's there that goes, hey, this is not just for my son. This is for, underprivileged, underserved communities, which is where we're going to go, non-white communities, that we're going to teach them how to also be better drug users. Because my son is also providing a lot of money. As a matter of fact, he's selling his art and everything else that we have hands off on. And this is by somebody who's supposedly, with the blue tie on, that is there for the community. Hasn't done anything to earn the community vote. And when you look at the history of it, this individual has not done anything to earn that vote. And yet and still, time and time again, we're just giving our vote away. And it's just, we're not asking anything for it. Just wear the right color, and we're
right
with you. It's like Crips and Bloods all over again. So
yeah, and then like when we start researching like the like parties and things like that, like, hey, technically we only been Democrat for ever since the 60s, right? Ever since the 70s, pretty much, 1968 Civil Rights Act bill and things like that. So you really have to ask yourself a question. It's like, okay, has the community has gotten better ever since we actually switched over to being Democrat? People always want to say no weapons formed against me shall prosper, with scripture and things like that. But when you look at it, ever since the 1960s, everything's been stagnant or actually gotten worse, So so really has weapons formed against us has been prospering against us. So I think it's just time for us just to reevaluate things. And let's just look at our entrepreneurship. That has went down to like a crawling rate. So for me, I believe that because before the 1960s we were actually Republican, and now that we are actually Democrats now, and then after that we have to look at people's their track record, And when we look at certain people's track record for not only the 1994 crime bill, but the crime bills even before that, I think that we're nothing but pigs getting fat and getting ready to be slaughtered.
Yeah, and that has
again
been of our of the policing and everything that's done here. And I made a statement a moment ago, and I'm big on receipts, so I don't want to just make a statement and say that his son is a whole crackhead. Here's a Time article from the Time. And that article there talks about Hunter Biden on making his own crack, living with his dealer, and his family's effort to keep him alive.
Wow.
So this is the person who has who's put this grant program together, has his son who is a whole crackhead right here has a crackheads in the suit. That is the representation that you need to be considered legitimate, is to become a crackhead in a suit. And then we take these crack allegations, whereas before, if you're black, back in the 80s and 90s, as you talked about, we just gotta, just incarcerate you. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you've seen it initially, but when I pulled up these statistics, one of the you look at this graph, letter E is drug offenses. So the thing that you're really going to get incarcerated for, and again, this is federal offenses. So I'm pulling federal as opposed to state, because each jurisdiction is different. But on a federal level, the majority of the crimes that you are going to be convicted of, or that you're going to be in prison for, that you're going to lose your liberty, lose your freedom, are going to be drug offenses, more so than anything else on this list. And this is something that's kept by the Federal Bureau of Prisons. This is not, this is a .gov website. This is not me just making up some numbers and just pulling them out my behind. But this is exactly what's going on here at this point, is that we're looking at they want to make us so that we are more or a better quality, I guess it would be the better word for it. We're not dying off so quickly as being drug users, and we can still participate in the system and be incarcerated, because there's a prison industrial complex as well that I'm not going to go into at this point. But this is part of that assault on the Black community that I wanted to talk about, or I just want to highlight. And you have the guy in the blue with the blue tie, who's supposed to be looking out for us with his whole crackhead of a son, putting in policies that are not only an affront to us, but an assault on our community.
And matter of fact, like there's been so many other assaults to the community, like it's not even funny, you know, like just the assault like that just happened just like on our women, with ideals and toxic femininity with feminism and things like that. I know what was that? I sent you a video like the other week about 1986 about the single mothers and things like that, and that study. I couldn't even watch the whole thing, so because I was very disturbed about because of what 20 years later we're in a worse condition, and yeah.
I seen that video and I kind of giggled and I laughed when I watched it, and as I'm going to show my age at this point, not just the gray beard, but I remember when that special came out. So I and it was a blast of the past. It was and I did watch the entire thing. So it was a very interesting to see it all over again and to see the impact from it at this point. Was just crazy. Like you mentioned, over time, they've broken up the family, which is the cornerstone of any community, is the family. And so if you break up the family, if you the assault on the Black community starts with an assault on the Black family. And if we can get the Black family as users of drugs on Section 8, looking for the daddy or the uncle to take care of him, as opposed to the Black man to take care of them, or the Black man to be present within the household, to be able to impart the things that men can impart that women don't. We're only getting half of the story, half of the training that young Black families or young Black children need. And then they propagate that on to the next generation, and they keep attacking it younger and younger and younger. And so now they have it into a situation now where they just attack the nucleus and the young children. And as they grow up, they'll depend on uncle also. They'll trust what uncle says, even though uncle doesn't have their best interest and wants to train them on how to be a whole crackhead, just like of uncle's family and his son.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, like in my opinion, I can't be wrong here. Just from my studies, the government found out how to break up our community by targeting our women. Because like our women is our first teacher of culture, and with that, they are our first teachers and our most important teachers in our lives. Think about it. How you walk, talk, eat. Hey, what do you know to be a person of color, or be even in your culture, that all comes from your mother, cool. And that's the reason why our mothers are so severe, revered, but now it's gotten to a point where it's time to critique, and critique, reform, and get better, and they target the women, and now you see what we have become and what lessons are being taught, and it's not very becoming of representative of the people that were in the 60s. It seems like we have devolved, where's dog eat dog, I always ask this question: what happened to our communities? Back in the day, I remember where we can just go, like, hey, if you didn't have any sugar, right, you can just go knock up next door, with your neighbor, Miss Jenkins, like, hey, Miss Jenkins, can I get some sugar? And she'll send you some sugar, and so therefore you have to go to the store or anything like that. So That's one of the mysteries for me is um, what happened to our communities, and I like to deep dive in that more on a later show if you love to have me. I love
Most
to.
definitely, I would love to have you. As a matter of fact, if you have time, we can get you in here in studio, and we can sit down and we can go into that. We can do a deep dive. There's several things that I'm thinking about as well on that subject, on what happened to our communities. And part of it, again, I'm going back to the catalyst is the black family. Once
Yes,
you get the black man out, you train the black woman to sit there and rely on
you don't
Sam.
need no man. Yeah,
You don't need a man. They train their children up along those. A lot of that stuff when you has a things that were said that we considered offensive, like with Shahrazad Ali or whatever.
yes,
During that time frame, there's a lot of those things that many people might consider offensive, or I didn't like the way that sounded, or the way that you stated it wasn't great. But the information that they provided was actually phenomenal. And
yes,
it was something that was needed at the time that we were taught, nah, don't listen to that. Don't worry about that. Don't think about that. The breakdown of the family happened. And once that happened, then you have, well, you can't tell my child what to do, or the father's not there, and you have another influence, or the influence of the streets. And so you pull the male out of the household. You have the woman become not just dispassionate, but resentful of the male in the household. She teaches the children, like you mentioned, that's the first teacher for as a if everything goes the way that it's supposed to. Even if sometimes people go like, well, barring religion, let's look at it from a evolutionary standpoint. And if you're looking at it from an evolutionary standpoint, even then, the first teacher is the woman. The man is
yeah.
out
In
going.
nature.
Yeah, has a that's in nature. And if the woman has been poisoned and she's poisoning the children, then the children come up, they're wrong, and it
Yeah,
starts
half baked. Yeah.
all over again. So the community gets broken up there. It gets broken up on not relying or not being able to tell our kids anything, or you see them out on the streets and you don't sell them anything. Those are things that when you look at it, it becomes it becomes very problematic. And again, like I say, as I'm gonna leave this door open for you. If you want in the studio, you tell me when you're ready to come on in the studio or when you're in town. That door is always open for you.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I will let you know. One thing I did want to touch on. I know we're going down a rabbit hole and things like that. Every time that we do that have a build, is always um, it's always great. One thing is my critique about this culture that we're currently in is we don't like it's cognitive dissonance. Hey, whenever we get better information, it's okay to change your mind. Like, hey, if this is some very good stuff, um, yeah, hey, we have some more updated information. Like, why are we doubling down on the bad information? And this is stuff that uh really makes me mad. It's like, hey, I understand that, hey, we thought this, all right, hey, this is not working for us. Here, let's change our mind to something that is working. Such as like in our community is like, hey, this single motherhood stuff is not working. It is not. And then people want to double down, talking about, oh, I'm living my good life, okay. And then whenever hey, you turn on a any other YouTube channel speaking on women, you see that they're miserable, or you see them being clapped up, for doing all that stuff, and really they really need direction, or say, hey, I'm happily this or I'm happily that, and then after that they contradict them in the next sentence, like I just don't get it, I
Yeah.
just don't.
Well, I'm going to read this chat here. It has from Deani Taylor. He talks about the destruction of the black family is the forefront of America's capitalist agenda. Watch Judas and the Black Messiah and the TV show Underground.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I haven't watched Judas and the Black Messiah. That's one of the things that's actually on my watch list on something I'm going to be watching. I actually did read up on. Well, obviously I love the Black Panther Party, and a lot of that type of stuff that went on. And there's several books that I can definitely recommend, not just dealing with Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seals as the leaders of the Black Panthers,
Right.
but Fred Hampton as well. And as far as leaders within the Black community, he was a huge Eldridge Cleaver. A lot of them were really good as far as leaders within the Black community, as far as uniters. And that's something that
Yes.
you don't see enough of, is people who are able to unite with. There's a lot of dividers. There's a lot of people who will sit there and they'll talk about it, and they'll divide the Black community up. And that was something that J. Edgar Hoover was huge on. If the
Right, correct.
if the movement is getting big, if the movement is getting out there and they're not able to get control of it, then let's see if we can cause divisions in it. Like the Judas part of that was helping them to create the divisions. And again, I guess we're going down the rabbit hole, but definitely I think it stays true and in line with what we're talking about, of the assault on the Black community, because we're dealing with not just that program that's an assault on the Black community, but all different aspects of assaults on the Black community. But today I did want to focus in on the grant program that was dealing with helping us to become better drug users, not participating in drugs, but breaking down the family drug as a if you're going to use, we need to keep you alive long enough so that you can financially fund this institution for us. This, as he points out, the American capitalist agenda on funding it, making sure that the customers, the clients, they don't die too quickly. So how to use better, and how to be a better user, how to be a better client, how to be a better customer, how to be a better consumer of drugs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely. Like, matter of fact, one of the best investments you actually see going around is actually like in the jails, you know. And with that being said, man, you know, there's actually call centers full of jails. It's not, you know, like back in the day, you always talk about, oh, all they're doing is pressing license plates. No, there's actually call centers. They actually got accountants. Actually got day traders as prisoners and things like that. They actually have these prisoners actually doing jobs that whenever they get out, they won't even be hired for, you know. Yeah. So pretty much they want your labor. It just, they don't want to pay you for it, or they want your knowledge. Because when we talk about from Reconstruction, like they didn't take slaves. They took doctors, you know, they took astronomers, you know, farmers and things like that. Yeah. They didn't take slaves. They took very intelligent people and made them slaves, you know. Go ahead.
I apologize. I was going to say, that's one of the things, like if you ever go visit one of these plantations, they always talk about how the people who were there, the slaves that were there that planted these big oak tree rows, that they were the ones who actually planted the oak tree rows, not because the overseers and the masters knew how to do it. They knew how to do that, how to get it at the root tap, and how to actually plant it, and how to do these great plantations that they're looking at. How you look at how picturesque it was, the level of knowledge that went into that to make that. Like you talk about, they didn't get just dumb people to do it. They got people who were intelligent, who understood how to do it. As a matter of fact, I like this other comment here: opinion shouldn't change facts, but facts should change your opinion. When you start looking at these things, these are facts that we have, things that are there that definitely should influence our opinions or our worldview, not the other way around. So I'm definitely in agreement with both of them.
Yes, like I think there's like a fallacy on like the word truth. You know, like people say, "Oh, speak your truth or know your truth." Okay, but truth always changes. It always does. He's like, "Oh, it's okay." Like you think about it, you know, hey, was your truth the same? Was like at 16 it is at 25? Yeah, is your truth still the same at 25 it is at 30? 35, 30 to 35? No, your truth always changes. But what Dhani has said, that facts don't change. Okay, maybe the way that you probably take in the facts may change, but facts should not change, and your opinion should never trump those facts. You know, facts should always dictate, or should have some type of holding into your opinion. So therefore, it's like, this is my source, and then and then if your source is proved wrong, okay, now your opinion should change. You know, not it's like, oh, this is what it is. because like at one point in time, they thought the Earth was flat. At first, people thought the Earth was round. Okay, and then once we go into the Lightning period, okay, they say, oh, the Earth is flat, right? And then now they found out the Earth was back round again. So and what people don't understand that the Lightning period only ended like in the 1800s as well, early 1800s. So
Yeah.
facts,
How's that old expression go? It says your opinions, right?
Yes.
I'm a big proponent, and I'm a big believer in your opinions, right? That I don't want to sit there and get your opinions. Give me the facts. Tell me, give me all the facts. Let me give me the information. Allow me in my mind to sit there and to critically think about it and to form an opinion based off of the facts that are there. So I don't need you to sit there and tell me how I need to feel about it, how I need to look at it, how I need to view it, or what my opinion should be on it. Just give me the facts, and if the facts fit your narrative, great. But if it doesn't, your opinions.
And one thing about the destruction of our community, I did want to touch on, because you did name Honorable Fred Hampton, is every time that you see let's call a messiah type figure for our community and things like that, and the person who unites, they always end up dead, or they die before their time. Even the last one, in my opinion, the last person that was uniting us was Khalid Muhammad. He died. He's talking about brain aneurysm. Fred Hampton, he died right after Martin Luther King. Malcolm.
That your lifespan is
Garvey.
Not long if you're actually doing things that's going to unite and bring the community together.
Yeah. So, and then you always see like the people that are with the dissension, they always tend to stay around the longest. I'm not saying any names, but
they rise in stature.
Yes. Like, yeah. And then like once you start doing your research, you see that a lot of these people are, they have signed statements, they're on somebody's payroll, government payroll, or some type of informant, and then once you look over the stuff, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, that's the reason why we've been steered in circles and things like that, and then, like, and I think we've been having so many backhanded compliments, with, even through our music. I think our music has been hijacked and things like that, because even like in early and late 80s, we're talking about uniting the people, like think about when Queen Latifah first came out, Public Enemy, Fight the Power, a lot of people are coming together.
Well, right now, that's what they do with the music. They make sure that the only thing that gets publicized, or the only way that you're going to get airplay, is if it's negative. I like that. It has and I want to stay away from, because with the comment that was just made here about it being depressing, it is depressing, but I want to try and see if we can get to a point where we can start talking about solutions. And that's where I want to go with this. I've been thinking about it, and I'm going to change, and I'm going to make the name of this particular podcast that I'm doing. I'm going to be like the What You're Going to Do About It podcast. This is going to be one where I want to focus on solutions. And so as we start talking about it, I don't want it to just be depressing. I want it to be something where we can think about it, we identify an issue, and then we start coming up with solutions. And that solutions can be, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, is going to be independent of whether or not it's a red or a blue solution. It's going to be a solution. I want to get solutions that are focused on how someone mentioned it earlier. They talked about ADOS. Oh, here we go. We talked about allegiance and support for ADOS, East Africa. But I want to make sure that as we start doing it, as we're going forward, I want to focus on Black descendants, whether African descendants of slaves, if they want to call it that, but just Black descendants here that brought up the Americas. That's what
Indigenous Americans, Black people are indigenous, are all around the world. It's just because they call us African. That's kind of like, because like when you talk to any self-respecting African, they always, say, hey, you're not African, clearly we're not. We're indigenous to America. And then when you look at the Webster's 1828 dictionary, you look up America, and they say the copper color race is actually already found here. So we actually had our own government. It wasn't taught to us. Whenever I did my own genealogy, okay, I'm tribe of Annie Young Wheel, which modern day is Cherokee. Mm-hmm. With the $5 Indians and things like that, it's actually indigenous Americans. So don't get me wrong, there were people brought over, but a majority of the people were already found here.
There were a lot of people that were already here. I'd say when you start looking at it, and you look at and this is, I guess I'll get into the history about it on another episode, but there were already Black people that were here, and that's definitive when you actually start looking at the primary sources and you actually start looking at history. But I want to cover that on another episode. But let's see. I want to get this next chat in here. So everybody does. If you start talking about the unity, especially in the
facts,
it said slavery is perpetuated. They meant that, yeah, in
perpetuity. Oh yes, forever.
Yeah.
That's forever.
One of the things that was one of the reasons why I bought up. Let me share my screen with you here again. But one of the reasons why I bring this one point up, and I want to make sure that people definitely understand this aspect of it, is that when you actually start looking at the document and how they classify things. So here you're looking at the 13th Amendment, and this is the one that everybody always points to as the amendment that freed or abolished slavery in the United States. And I think that it's extremely important to note that when you look at it, it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, and then it carves out the exception, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, and it doesn't say felony or misdemeanor, as I highlighted earlier, shall exist within the United States. So normally if you take out what's between there, that's what they'll say, like, oh, you can make that and just without it, but they carve out an exception. And now they criminalize so many things, and as was pointed out earlier, they've made it so that drug offenses is so high, they're going to help you to be better, to be a drug consumer, but they're still going to, at the federal level, criminalize it. You're not free. It's intent so that we're going to we're going to teach you how to do it better. We're going to criminalize it because we can't call you nigger anymore based off of this amendment, but we can still call you a criminal, and we can treat you the same way that we would when we called you a nigger and you were a slave. So when you look at the language or the language of the 13th Amendment and how it's been interpreted over time, they always make sure they carve out that exception for how they can keep you in slavery in perpetuity. They want to keep up the indentured servitude where they were bringing people over, and that's for the white folks, but they want to make sure that they keep that caste system alive and that they keep you in slavery in perpetuity. We might not call it slavery. We'll call it you're a criminal and that you deserve the treatment because you've earned that. But you look at what they're actually criminalizing. You look at the depth and the breadth to which they make sure that you are a criminal up under the system. And E being drug offenses again in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the highest by far. The next highest would be M, which would be weapons, explosive, and arson. And that is not even half of what drug offenses are. So this is 30. You would have to do 30 and then another 4,000 in order to get up to where they have it here just for drug offenses, for who's incarcerated in federal penitentiary just for drug offenses. As a matter of fact, what does it say? It says 45.3% of all inmates in jail today are there for drug offenses. And I believe that number is also, 38% of prisoners are Black, if I recall that correctly. Actually, 38.3% of all prisoners are Black. And supposedly, according to the census, Black people make up only 13% of the population. So if you make up 13% of the population, but you make up 38% of the prison population, I think those numbers are a little skewed.
They do indicate.
Yeah. So that's another discussion. Uh,
Yeah,
Give,
like it just has like slavery has. There's actually a book called Slavery by Another Name. I
I
forgot
love,
who I forgot who wrote it, but it chronicles from post Reconstruction all the way into the 1950s of or 1960s of how people of color how they've actually been enslaved, and one thing says that that's how they took some of our lands. One of my descendants, that's how he got some of his land took. You know, they threw a charge on him, okay, and said, "Hey, either sign over your land or go to jail." And so what he did, he signed over his land, so therefore that he didn't have to go to jail. You know, and then they came back a month or two later, and then put a charge on him, and after that, then he went to jail, in jail. You know, so um, you know, so yeah, this is a perpetual thing. Uh, Pretty much like one of the best solutions, you know, I can find is, you know, the father being back in the home, you know, get our families back together, you know, and you know that is the best solution, because whenever we have our family, because you have to understand back in the 50s and 60s, like we were actually the model American family, you know,
correct. Has
people, we were the ideal, you know.
we were highly married. High, the family was together. It was a unit. The community was strong, like you mentioned before. And now it's not. I want to read one of these other comments, or actually, there's two comments that I want to read. One is like talks about in a room full of insanity, the same man is crazy. I like that. I could definitely agree with that.
Yes,
But
sir.
as a, and I'm going to take this a step further on what was stated here. As a result of the 13th Amendment, they criminalize human behavior. I'm going to say that not only do they criminalize human behavior, they teach you, as we looked at with that grant, how to do this better. This is something where if you're talking about the capitalist system and how the system is geared, one of the things that they're doing right now, and this, as I'm, the whole reason for this show today is dealing with the fact that you have people that are making an assault on the Black community, and they're doing it by training you to be a better drug user so that you can be a drug user a lot longer without dying, so that you can fund the system a lot longer, and then they'll criminalize it, or they'll still keep it criminalized, so they'll pick the fruit off the vine when they need to, fund another aspect of the system, and they'll keep that in perpetuity for the Black people. So it's all sad, but I want to see if we can figure out some kind of way. And I guess the next show, I want to sit there and see if we can actually start focusing on what can we do as far as solutions, because at this point, that grant program is already, that ship has sailed. That was that 2 days ago, when everybody started reporting on it. They reported on it when the grant opportunity closed.
Yes, exactly. One thing I did want to add, they're talking about with drug offenses and things like that. I see Dahani has Tupac on there. We need to discuss Tupac's role in this, because of him saying all that thug life and promoting this. Remember where rap was before in the 80s, and now you see that it's got all thugged out and things like that, and how he promotes like, hey, go to jail and things like that. And you have to understand that a lot of people didn't have fathers in the home. So who they look to? They look to Tupac.
They looked at entertainers in general. Yeah.
They,
And that's what they held up.
yeah, they look Tupac, and then what he did, he marches right into prisons.
Made it fashionable again.
Yeah, because think about it now, like rap after Tupac, okay. Before Tupac, we're talking about empowerment, right? Matter of fact, he even came in on the empowerment tip, you know, right?
Correct.
Now, after Tupac, okay, nothing but drugs and hitting licks and all the drug paraphernalia and guns, all in the music.
Yeah, I think about that time frame and the shift at that time when it happened. Like you mentioned at that time, well, one of the things that you had like the Public Enemies, the Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, all different types of hip hop artists, and there,
LL Cool J.
Yeah, you had LL Cool J. You had, and then you also had a genre up under hip hop, which was gangster rap. So you had all these other different genres, and you also had gangster rap. As time went on and progressed, only type of rap or hip hop that was allowed or that was uh, predominantly pushed within the community. And again, this goes back towards what we talked about with the assault on the Black community, and it does go towards this drug aspect. But the only thing that was pushed was anything that was negative about the Black community at that point. So there was no fight the power anymore. There is as a all everything now is can you raindrop, drop top, right? That type,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
anything that's you talking about catching it has a hit a lick, anything along those lines, you can get an album, you can get your album pushed. That'll get in the clubs, that'll get radio airplay, that'll get multiple streams. That is what they're gonna push. That is as a every way that they can, they'll push that level of negativity. And they'll probably, as I'm sure that there's some artists out there that are trying to be positive and some artists that talk about the other aspects aside from making it one song on an album. But that's not what's going to get pushed. That's not what's going to get praise. That's not what's going to get all the airplay and the repeat time. And the only thing that you're going to get at that point is just more individuals that are just going towards a degraded form within the community. That's about it.
Yeah, and what happened to R&B music? Okay, dead. You know, and like it turned into strip club music. You know, like and whenever you listen to bad things, you know, let's just say like, hey, if somebody's always sending you bad vibes and talking always down on you, right? And you consistently listen to that, okay? Only bad things are going to happen. You're probably going to do a lot of bad things, and let's just put that to music, all right? Just because it sounds good, you know, like what person, you know, likes to debase themselves, you know? I'm a dog, I love hoes, you know, I'm addicted to money, cars, and clothes, you know, like who demeans themselves, you know? You know, it just shows you just the where we're going at as a community and a society, because, you know, culture is dictated by what we see on TV, you know, and of course we cannot handle that. That's the reason why power is so big, or people always going into Courtney Kemp's live streams and TV and all that stuff matters. That's the reason why Housewives of Atlanta is so big, and reason why we have so many clones of Kim Kardashian and the Kardashian sisters. You know, you know, the culture is now onto the TV, and the only way that we can rein it back in is by, in my estimation, is by promoting family, because there are no more family shows. You know, like.
When they promote family shows, it's only family shows that show the father to
no
be
father,
either no father or a stupid father, or the parents are stupid. The parents don't have any intelligence, and the children need to not listen. Or it's a single, like you said, the single parent. And I'd be remiss. I don't want to miss this comment here. It says, I agree. Tupac was also 25. That was his truth at the time. Had he lived past that, I bet his messing would have changed. I think you mean message. I believe. I don't want to put words in your mouth. And I can see. I can definitely agree that.
I disagree.
Okay. Only reason I tell me why you disagree. I'll tell you why I think that might be the case. Go ahead.
In my research, Tupac was he had writers. All right. And one of his writers that is well documented is Ray Love. And Tupac rarely did his own work. And that's an industry secret right there. So Tupac, because you have to understand what he was doing. He was doing movies, TV, and then after that, he had enough time to write his own rhymes and drop all these albums, you know, All Eyes on Me, Book 1, Book 2, 7 Day Theory. He didn't have all that time. So pretty much people were writing for this man. All right. So what he was doing is he was being directed to do these things. And once you start researching Tupac, everything that he has done was directed. Like he didn't do things like his own volition or anything like that. and because like whenever you see interviews with him, with Michael Jai White talking about, hey, when he hang out with Tupac, Tupac was a Gemini. All right, and I don't know if anybody you ever hung around Geminis. Matter of fact, our former President Trump, he was Gemini. They turn it on and off when certain people are around.
Okay.
And Michael Jai White did a lot of Vlad TV interviews with that. Even what's his name, Lord Jamal, he knew the guy. He even said that, hey, Tupac was being orchestrated. He was being planted into this, and whenever you have masters like that, and you have masters that you have to hear from, your messaging is not going to change. I'm sorry, and another thing I always questioned is about Tupac, like, why didn't we not have a funeral for this guy? We had a funeral for Michael Jackson.
Oh, he was dead. I looked at the autopsy. He's dead.
No, man, there was no blood. Like you go look at the crime scene, there was no blood.
I'm gonna have to go back and go look at that again.
Yeah, go look at it. Where the blood at? Hey, he got shot. What? How many times? Where the blood at? And after you talk about he got shot 5 times, right? I know friends and family has been shot. Okay, yeah. You will have scars. All right, and then what person been shot 5 times and don't have scars? At
the studio, or are you talking about the time when he got murdered? Which one?
No, at the studio. Because remember, he got shot 5 times. Just as they trying to draw his messianic, type thing. Like how Jesus got pierced 5 times, right? Okay, hand, leg, and then the side, right? Same thing with Tupac. So a lot of his stuff was very orchestrated. And based off his writers, or whoever they put with him, then okay, his message might change on that. But no, like he was put here for a reason. He had the story for the Black Messiah, and he got put here, and he got placed here, and he did what his commission was, and then after that he got out. And I'm saying, just please don't take my word for it. Research it.
Oh, trust me. Like I said, I bring receipts. I like to go look at the receipts. So let me go back.
I got receipts.
Yeah, because for me, I'm thinking, and the reason why I said I was going to push back on it, and what I'm thinking about is I look at a lot of the older rappers, or the rappers who were there at that time, who are now older. One of the ones that come to mind. So you have the Ghetto Boys Reloaded. They have their own podcast, and I look at Willie D and Scarface on where they were at that time and what they're doing now. So their messaging at the time, and as a matter of fact, Willie D, one of the things that he talked about, and he says he's trying to come out with a documentary that talks about the puppeteers behind the trajectory of hip hop music, and that put hip hop music on that trajectory, and that at the time that he didn't know any better, and it would have made a difference for him on the type of messaging that he put out for his music at the time, if he would have known better at the time. So I'm looking at a lot of, like you're talking about, a lot of the hip hop artists at the time, like even when you think about people who are a part of African Bambaataa at the time that they were with it, and then they learned about what he was actually about. That was something that they looked at, and it was like they changed the trajectory of where they're at. One of the things that I guess I'm missing somebody, because I'm looking at one of the comments here, or he says that T-Pain also has a great podcast, but yeah, and he changed his trajectory. So I'm looking at a lot of people that once they learned, and they're no longer hot anymore, which is also, I guess that probably goes to it as well. But once they learned that what they were doing was wrong, but now they've already made their money on it, I guess would be one thing. Plus, also on top of it, they're now older. They've changed the trajectory. So that's why they bring in the new crop of young kids, allow them to go in there and go push this message of hate and dysfunction within the community, and they keep that going. So that was why, when I'm looking at it, that I thought that I would go with, and I'm gonna have to go back and look at your receipts, why I would believe that he would make that it's possible that from 25 to once he got older, and if he actually start realizing, and he gets past it, that he could have made the change. But again, let me go take a look at those receipts, because when looking at those receipts, it might change my mind. Again,
Can I get a rebuttal?
My feelings, right? So if the case, then it's going to be a my feelings moment, and I can sit there and I can go back to that. But most definitely, you definitely got the opportunity to give a rebuttal. So,
all right, just one thing, and then after that, we have to probably do a show on that one. Just Tupac's effect, because he's one person I really want to talk about because of people want to give him like the messianic feeling to this guy, this gentleman, and whenever you research it, when you look at the receipts, so what he put out is not it's not what you think it is, All right, but just one thing,
I'm gonna extend the invitation also to the Tupac fan, which would be the Dhani, he would be a Tupac fan. So if you also want to participate,
hey, I was a fan. I was a fan. No, but my rebuttal remark is was, if you look at his discography, he started off with Black Power, Panther Power, he was on what is that same song, when I clown around, when I hang around with the underground girls to frown, sit down when I come around, right? All right, I told you, was a Tupac fan, right? And then he devolved into the worst annals of what we think a man should be, which is being a thug, being in the streets and things like that. And normally you don't make that transition from black kings and all this other good stuff, and then we go all the way down to being a thug. We just don't make that transition. Normally it's the opposite way around, because it shows you that you're actually going better in your thinking. But he just brought us our mental space down with his music. That's just in my opinion. Just when you just look at it, just like, hey, first is on that Black Power stuff, and then after that, we just brought us all the way down. So it's not by accident, and then after that, normally if they're going to do that, then you're supposed to bring us back up to being kings or anything like that, or something positive, but it just didn't happen.
Right.
Because Biggie Smalls, he actually from 10 crack commandments to sky's the limit. And matter of fact, that's what ended up getting him killed, because he wanted to change his music.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna have to go again. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. But as I noticed, we have a few more people on. So let me just do a quick recap or summary for those who are just joining on now. When I talked about this is the summary of the assault on the Black community, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar or aware of here recently, and I'm sharing my screen here. This is something that we went over earlier. There is a grant program that just closed that just here recently closed, called Fiscal Year 2022 Harm Reduction Program grant, and it closed on February 7th, 2022 is when it closed. The harm reduction grant, that sounds really nice. It's a really flowery title for this program that they have that's going on. And this harm reduction grant was the purpose that they provide here. When you're looking at the executive summary of this grant, was a program to support community-based overdose prevention program. Great goal that you would have there. And they're going about it by a syringe services program, which comes into effect here we'll go into some of the requirements here, and other harm reduction services. Funding will be used to enhance overdose and other types of prevention activities to help control the spread of infectious disease, consequences of such disease for individuals with or at risk of developing substance use disorders, or SUD. The other thing that I was pointing out is that these are 25 awards that are going to be done for this program. So there's only going to be 25 people who are going to be able, or not people, 25 organizations that are going to be there that's going to be able to participate in this. And of the 25 organizations, they're going to have to split this $9,750,000 per year, or $29,250 over 3 years, which essentially amounts to either $390,000 annually, or the max award that they can give to any of those 125 or one of the 25 awards they're going to give is going to be 400,000 per award per year, and they're going to you'll get to know who gets that award May 30th. I'm sorry, May 15th, but that's when they think it's going to start in May 30th, and that's going to go out to states, local, tribal, and territorial governments, tribal organizations, nonprofit, community-based organizations, and primary and behavioral health organizations is who can participate and request these funds. So they're going to select 25 out of those that they're going to give this money to. And in addition to that, it goes towards underserved communities that are greatly impacted by SUDS. And the definition for that is going to be in Section 2 of Executive Order 13985. So if you're looking for what that definition is, basically anybody not white and also dealing with poor. Here's where it starts to really get interesting, and this is where the assault on the Black community. Why? As in, I'm trying to make this quick and summarize this for you, because in the required activities, this is the must language. This is the required thing that people are going to have to deal with. The grant funds must be used primarily to support the following required harm reduction activities. So this is must language. This is that you have to do it. And it gives these bullet points, and I'm not going to go back over them again, but it talks about who's going to be included, but the 2 bullet points they give. So it's going to be one of the must things that must happen, must purchase equipment and supplies to enhance harm reduction efforts, such as, and this is not an all-inclusive list, such as harm reduction vending machines, including stocks for machines. And these 2 bullet points here, again, I'm not going to go over all the other stuff. That's actually some really beneficial things, but they snuck in 2 line items here. One is safe smoking kits or supplies. So crack pipes, bongs, rolling papers, whatever it is that could be construed as safe smoking kits or supplies, that must be included in this program. As when you get your money, this is one of the things that you must be able to spend that money on. And then also syringes to prevent, control, and spread of infectious diseases. So we don't want you dying off too quickly. We don't want you getting any kind of diseases, because you need to learn how to use drugs. And one of the other things it talks about in this program, they're going to teach you how to use this paraphernalia. So they're not going to give you the drugs. They're going to give you the paraphernalia to use the drugs, to make you a better consumer and teach you how to better use the drugs, while at the same time keeping you out from actually selling the drugs to make the money on the drugs, because that's reserved for big pharma and people who can vertically integrate, who have the money to do so for marijuana in these places where it's recreationally, but it's still criminalized. And if you were just coming in, I shared the Bureau of Prisons for the federal level, because each state is going to differ, but drug offense is going to be one of the highest, or I shouldn't say going to be, it is the highest thing in the federal prisons for people getting convicted. So there's this huge assault on the Black community. They're funding it, and it's not even no longer like, oh, with freeway recall, we're going to fund it via the CIA, through the Contra program, through this other country that's going to provide these drugs, and none of that anymore. Now what they're just doing, we're going to give you a grant program. We're going to fund 25 people. They're going to get almost $500,000 a year in order to make sure that they purchase these vending machines for harm reduction. And as we're classifying harm reduction, that's just to make you a better drug user. And as you go through it, am I going to post the link? I will post the link. I'm going to put that in the description box. Actually, let me see if I can get that link posted down here right now, because someone just asked me if I can post the link. So let me see if I can get this link posted down here as well. But that is where we're at right now. Is this is a program that is designed specifically for helping to make better drug users, and they're not even hiding it.
It's so many layers to it. I think this is kind of equivalent to the crime bill of 1994 that Biden signed. That, the 3 strikes you're out rule. That thing. This is very, very equivalent to that. he's like, hey, they're not hiding it anymore. They pretty much, hey, you have a dollar amount on you, and I'm not trying to go into conspiracy land over here, but I'm not trying to go to conspiracy land or anything like that, but Bill Gates is the biggest farm owner here in the United States now.
Is now the biggest? Okay, because there was another family that was actually the biggest farm or biggest landowners in the United States as far as landlords. But if he's there, I can believe
farm. We're talking about farm owners. He farm,
okay.
not landowners. So we're talking about farm.
Okay.
He's buying up all the farms. Not only he paid off the media, and then now we're having, not only is over here with the vaccines and things like that. Now this bill gets passed, because what do you think? What most drugs get made out of? Plants. Plants. So I think another investment's actually being made now. If you don't want to go into a conspiracy land, but just trying to take the tea leaves and put them together, and I just think that. With this bill being passed, just trying to be Nostradamus, trying to predict the future and things like that. Excuse me. Things. It's just showing you, hey, where this thing is going, and it seems like this thing is going. This pretty much is here to criminalize. Pretty much anything, like how in the heck you're going to spend taxpayer funds to show how to smoke crack out of a pipe, like, please make that make sense to me. Like what, like the old crackheads and can't tell the new ones how to do it, or shoot up heroin or anything like that, or how to cook it, because really like the honestly, like the true thing was really what's killing people is what they cut it with. Is it rat poison or whatever it is? That's the true thing that's killing people. Well, plus the drug gets you hooked, but like the thing that really takes you out is like, hey, what are cutting with? And and then now so what do these classes actually include? Does it show you how to cook it? And then
all this harm reduction becomes that question.
Yeah, harm reduction, and then after that, what Ti opened up like a trap house museum on top of that too. A couple years back. Man, like to me, it just seems like this is just a big cluster. It just seems like I apologize. I'm just a loss for words. It's just, it kind of upsets me. It really does. Like, okay, out of all things to pass, and I'm not just talking about just people of color. I'm just talking about all people, just Americans in general. I'm not just talking about one specific community. Out of all the things that this country needs, all right, we got kids in cages down there on the border. We have pipeline problems. We have infrastructure problems. We have, business failing because of, they had to send people home, like unemployment problems, so many problems. But this is a thing that's actually on your plate. It's like, hey, we need to teach people how to use drugs better. I'm
criminalized, and it's still criminalized. We just want you to learn how to use it better, but we need our supply of clients or customers to be well informed on how to do this, so that they don't die, so they can buy more, so they can continue to contribute to the entire thing,
or so that they can catch them.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
I'm looking at this comment. I apologize.
Yeah.
So it says, staying on topic with the grant and music, why do you think all the current hip hop artists are dope heads? Remember when they all wanted to be dealers, pimps, and hustlers? Now, hey, we're all addicts. So you know what? That's hilarious. Not only that's
facts.
hilarious to me, that's what I say is fact. I never really considered it from that perspective. It's kind of like when they talked about why you don't want to be a shoot as a how did 50 he phrased it no, not 50. Somebody rephrased my brain. I brain farted where they said why you respect the shoot. I mean, you respect the going who gets shot. I respect the shooter. Was one of the verses in one of these hip hop lines a while back, and I look at that as this is kind of in that same vein of something I didn't consider. I'm sure that if you can change that phraseology, that would be bars. That would be bars right there, Deani.
Man, like why do you think all our current hip hop artists are dope heads? Well, we look at what rappers, what's the resume of being a rapper now? You know, when we look at the resume, you know, gotta sell drugs or have guns in your video and things like that. And then, you know, I think they have peer pressure to do drugs and do lean, you know, and do things to destroy themselves, because since they're destroying their whole community, you know,
What's one
in
more?
essence, you know, you're gonna end up destroying yourself, you know, ultimately, and pretty much that's what happens. It like just in my opinion,
I would agree with
yeah,
that.
yeah, they're just like and then number two is a lack of, you know, a father being in the home as well, you know, because if my son was doing something like that, oh no, I was like, I'm sorry, this is not what's going. This not going down in the Rustradamus household. You know, it's just not. You know,
Well,
I work too hard. You know.
well, I'm looking at this other comment. I want to get as a we're going to actually get into this in another video that we do, another live that we'll get in here, and we'll talk about because he's talking about bringing it back to his childhood, remembering He-Man, G.I. Joe, Thunder.
Yes, sir.
Now it's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Twilight, Pokemon. They want you weak. They want us weak, and they want lack of masculinity. I definitely, I'm not only I agree that's something I want to cover on a later one, and so that was Jay-Z that I was thinking of, and yeah, I knew I brain farted on that when I thought about. I was like, I remember the line. I could not remember who it was. So it was Jay-Z, but yeah, I say so that's where we're at, and I guess I'm gonna try and bring it to a close at this point. We've been going about an hour and 30, and I want to try to keep these around hour 32 hours. And I guess the next time I'm gonna have to make sure I get the word out a little earlier that we're gonna be doing these, and they're gonna be pretty regular. So look forward to whenever you can make it in the studio. Dehane, if you can want to participate, by all means, when I drop the link, you can get into the back as well, and you can hop on in on it as well. And anyone else who's out there in the live, because it looks like we have a few. It's been fluctuating, but I say it's been under 10, but we've been fluctuating. So the next one, I'm definitely going to make sure we can get a larger crowd, and I'll get the announcement out a little early.
Alrighty.
All right.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right. No, thank you for joining us. Thank Dehane, thank you, and I appreciate you all. And yeah, we are out. Salute. Have peace in your life.